Okay, so today we're going to do some exam questions on 1.5.1, and this is about different computer science legislations. So the first one we have is the Data Protection Act, and just a brief overview. So this regulates the processing of personal information, protecting individuals' privacy rights in the digital age. Data principles. Organisations must follow data protection principles, including fair and lawful use of data. And the data subjects, so the people who the data is about, have the right to access their data, have inaccuracies corrected, request erasure, and restrict processing. Then we have the Copyright, Design and Patents Act. This protects people's property online, and it covers everything from logos, music recordings, and if work is original, then the copyright is just automatically applied and it doesn't expire until 25 to 70 years after the creator's death. And obviously in 1992, this act was extended to include computer programs as a type of literary work, meaning that copyright automatically applies to code as well. We have the Computer Misuse Act of 1990. This concerns a malicious act of use of computers. And it was created to ensure that computer hacking was covered by the law, but has since frequently been updated to ensure that it remains relevant, especially with how much that, computing sort of advances. And it outlines 3 primary offences: unauthorised access to computer materials, unauthorised access with intent to commit further offence, and unauthorised modification of computer material. So you can kind of see the pattern. It's basically accessing things that don't belong to you with the added intention to do something malicious. And then lastly, we have the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act, and this is basically covering investigation, surveillance, and the interception of communication by public bodies. And it also enforces internet service providers and mobile phone companies to give up information upon request from authorised authority to ensure that their networks have sufficient hardware installed to facilitate surveillance. And it's a little bit controversial because its power extends to small agencies like local councils, and people also feel like the act is a bit of an invasion of privacy. Okay, so the exam questions. The programmers do not want other people to download and use these images. State the name of one relevant piece of legislation and describe how this would protect these images. So based on what we talked about before with all the 4 different types of acts, the one that seems the most relevant to this question would be the Copyright, Designs and Patents Act. And brief description, it gives the author ownership of the images, so other people cannot distribute this without permission. For other areas of the web interface, the programmers need to use images that they have not created themselves. Give 2 ways they could ensure that these images are used legally. So they could ask the owner or author for permission, or they can just use copyright-free images. The Copyright, Designs and Patents Act 1988 applies to all videos that are streamed. Explain how this act applies to videos. So copyright is assigned to the owner of the video automatically on creation, which makes it illegal to distribute videos as your own without the permission of the owner. For each of the following scenarios, tick one law that is being broken. Okay, scenario 1. A bank accidentally publishes a customer's account details on its website. So it says accidentally, so we know it's not necessarily computer misuse because that is with a malicious intent, and it wouldn't be a Copyright, Design and Patents Act because they're not trying to copyright anything or use someone's intellectual property. So this would come under the Data Protection Act, as they have a duty, the bank has a duty to make sure that this data is protected. So this would be the one that's being violated. Someone downloads a pirated version of a piece of software that users would ordinarily have to pay for. So again, we can kind of see that pirated, so they're basically not using something that's their own for that piece of software, so you'd automatically believe that it's the Copyright, Design and Patents Act. And someone writes and distributes a virus, so this is intentional and it's used for malicious behaviour, so this would be the Computer Misuse Act. So yeah. Describe the purpose of the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act. So this is set to empower / limit the extent to which public bodies can use technological surveillance, including monitoring internet activity. I'm not sure how many marks this is, but yeah. State 4 legal responsibilities companies have with regard to the data they hold about employees. So I'm going to just go through all of the different possibilities, even though this is just a 4-mark question. Okay, so ensure only relevant data is held about those employees. Make sure that data is kept up to date and that data is accurate. It must not be kept longer than necessary or however long it's required for. And the employees are given access to their own data. The data must be kept securely and it must not be passed on to third parties without permission of the employee. Okay, and that's it actually. That was really quick. There weren't many questions, but we've actually covered Data Protection Act, Computer Misuse Act, Copyright Design and Patents Act, and the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act. So we've covered all 4 of them. Obviously, there's a lot of, 9 markers on this, but that is for a different video. But yeah, that's it.